Hey y'all, this is Miss Foot, and welcome to Watch Ryn Win. We will be following Lauren as she attempts to make her dream school, Howard University, her reality. But as we all know, in order to truly understand something or someone, you have to know the backstory. In this episode, we will learn about Lauren and her childhood. That's why we're starting here at These People, her parents.
My name is Emmett Mitchell, and I'm Lauren's dad.
My name is Carla Mitchell, and I am Lauren's mom. Well, as an elementary student, I would say that Lauren was probably as much of a firecracker then as she is now. Um, in elementary, I think we had moved from the city.
Yeah.
We had moved from the city, and I feel like she spent a lot of time asserting her blackness. She's always been that kind of kid. Very loving, but very, assertive in her personality. She loved friends that she loved and people who she didn't. She just, they knew. That's what she was.
Yeah, Lauren as a child is very similar to Lauren now.
Yeah.
One of the things that has always stuck out with me is that Lauren knew she had a direction for herself. And so if she did not rock with you at 5 years old, she did not rock with you. She was very clear on that. She had defined for herself how she would interact with other people. And if she liked you, she rocked with you. And so I knew early on that she would always protect herself, protect her feelings, because she had already made a decision on how she wanted to interact with other people.
This is Lauren. You know, the reason why we're doing this whole thing? She has quite the special personality. But I think we're all about to learn a little about why she is who she is.
So when we moved to Canton, it was like a it's like a rocky transition, and the whole thing just stayed rocky. I feel like it wasn't a pleasant experience at all. Just like from just me being the only Black girl in my school, things of that nature. When I first moved, I went to a school called Walker Winter, and it wasn't as bad as the second school that I went to, but it was still pretty bad because I felt completely out of place, and I didn't have teachers that supported me. They didn't really see any type of promise in me, and things of that nature. It was just really, it wasn't good for me at all. And then it was hard for me to connect with kids and make friends because I was coming from the city and they're like all immersed in suburban culture and just weren't really receptive of me at all. And so I didn't really have a good time dealing with that. So it didn't really impact my ability to achieve academically. I think I've always been kind of for elementary and middle school, for the most part, I had always been kind of up there academically. It didn't really, if anything, I poured more into my academics because I didn't have any friends to fool around with in class and stuff like that. And so I was always trying to keep myself occupied so it didn't seem like I was the odd one out, even though I was. And then just like me personally, it took a toll on me, like even a toll, like it affected me, and I still feel the effects to this day, like that. Being ostracized like that and like bullied, I was bullied bad, like Afro pulled on type of bullying, and it just kind of, I don't know, it took a really bad toll on me, and I was super insecure for the rest of the years. So yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know, it was really bad. Like it was really, really bad. Yeah.
After elementary school, Lauren and her family moved back to the city. A fresh start for middle school is what they thought she needed. But that wasn't necessarily the case.
So in sixth grade, I moved back to the city, and the transition was really bad. Like I went from experiencing extreme racism to like extreme colorism. Like that was the root of all of my bullying, teasing, everything, was that I was very dark. And so like going through the 6th grade, I made friends that year, but I didn't really keep them because people expected me to be a certain way, and I think they still do expect me to be a certain way, and then I'm not that, so they like, kind of like, stray away from me. But going through that year specifically was really weird because I went through a transition in who I presented myself to be. Because when I came back to the city, I was going to school in Southfield, and I was like too white for the black kids, I guess. I had acclimated to suburban culture. And so I spoke too properly, and I liked rock music, and I was this and I was that. And they were like, girl. So I specifically remember, and then, and I've never, ever, ever been the type to just like, I'm not passive at all. Like I'm almost to a fault. Like I'm going to, I'm gonna defend myself always. And so even when I was going to school out in the suburbs, I was never somebody who would just let you, like somebody would bump past me and try to knock my books down, and I would come back 10 times harder. And that's why I was getting in trouble so much, because, I was always like, if she knocked my books out of my hand, I'm gonna push her down the stairs. That type of thing. So when I came back to the city, the difference between kids in the city and kids in the suburbs is kids in the city are just as confrontational. Little girls out in the suburbs are passive. So if you push them down, they're gonna cry. You push a girl down in the city, she's gonna fight back. So I was getting in the fight because I was getting, bothered so badly, and I always had to defend myself. People were always saying something about me. I was arguing a lot, and so that is kind of when, like, I remember specifically a girl. She said to me, we were standing in the lunch line, and she said, when you came here, I thought you were gonna be so bougie and just, and I was like, I don't know. And she was like, but it turns out you're bad just like us. And I was like, I'm really not, but y'all pushed me to be that because it was HE double hockey sticks in that building. For me, yeah, it was not good. And that 6th grade, I think that's like the first time, well, not the first time somebody told me I was bad, but that was like the first time somebody really like, I don't know. It was a very weird, that stuck with me though. And it was a very, very weird transition, the way that I kind of like shifted into like this, I don't know. I was very angry though. I was angry. I know after that point, I remember just being angry. Like I was already angry, but it wasn't like something that drove my actions. But I know for a fact that after that, like I became like super I was a mess.
Ooh, y'all, that's a lot for a 6th grader. But I wish I could tell you it got easier for Lauren in middle school. Well, I'll let her tell you what happens next.
So my last 2 years of middle school, I have been dealing with a lot. I didn't mention this, but the previous year I lost a friend, and I also lost my grandmother. And so things just started to just become 20 times worse. In 7th grade, I was just dealing with that, and just it seemed like all the issues that I had before were getting worse, especially within myself, at home, at school. I had began just spiraling into a horribly like bad mental space. I started self-harming during that time, and so I kind of was just like completely detached from everything, and I was like in this dark little bubble. And then 8th grade, I ended up getting kicked out of school because they were fed up with me. They had been dealing with me for these 2 years, and I was getting written up and then suspended all the time. And so they finally were like, Lauren, you got to get out of here. Like, we've been being patient with you. But I ended up getting kicked out in 8th grade, and I went to an alternative school where I experienced something. I got jumped, and it was horrible. And like after that, you could consider my mind blank. Like after that, the humiliation that came after that at that school was probably worse than everything that I've dealt with leading up to that moment in school, socially. And so after that, I just was like, no thoughts, head empty, sadness, dark, tears.
This is just the beginning of Lauren's story. I mean, we're not even at high school yet. But one thing I can promise you is watch Ryn Win. It's about to get way more interesting.